Hi, it's Jerry Robertson. Welcome to another edition of Newsmakers Journal of the Vaccine Year. It is Friday, September 10th, and we are joined by our all-star panel of top local journalists, Nick Masuda, managing editor of the Montecito Journal, Josh Molina, international man of mystery, podcaster, and political writer for Noozhawk, Ryan P. Cruz, staff writer for The Independent, and Jade Martinez-Pogue, staff writer for Noozhawk. Thank you all for being here. So Jade, I guess the lead this week on COVID is the deaths, huh? I mean, we kind of knew they were coming. It's a lagging indicator, but 12 deaths in the last week or something?
Yeah, so there's been 12 deaths, 3 just from yesterday, and that was the highest number of daily deaths that the county has reported since, I think it was March 18th. So that's a lot. And all of them, I could be wrong, but at least as of a few days ago, all of them were residents of the North County. So that's kind of interesting also. I mean, North County has historically had the higher number of cases also, so it makes sense, but yeah.
Yeah, and then when you did the breakdowns, the ethnic breakdowns, I guess Latinos were down around 45% vaccinated, compared to what, 66% are we at now of the eligible population of the county. Yeah. So are they still doing any kind of information dump about, who's dying, who's vaccinated, who's not? Or who's getting sick, who's vaccinated, who's not?
They haven't. There's no Board of Supervisors meeting this week, so there is no presentation from public health. And the website doesn't give any information on, the vaccination status of the deaths or the hospitalizations. Every week or so, they update how many cases were vaccinated versus unvaccinated, but that's lagging like 2 weeks. So we really don't have much to go off. Get asked a lot about it, but
yeah. And just to put that 12 deaths in perspective, yesterday there were 3,242 deaths from COVID nationally. So basically a 9/11 disaster every day. We're back to that death rate. But Ryan, you did a piece about an alleged cure-all for COVID, Ivermectin, which is used on horses for deworming. I got plenty here. Should I keep it in stock, or what was your takeaway on Ivermectin?
I mean, yeah, so I wrote a COVID fact versus fiction piece. I'm kind of doing a couple of those. This latest one was Ivermectin, and like you said, it's a horse dewormer. It was approved for use in humans, and it did win a Nobel Prize, but this was for parasitic conditions, and this is not COVID. I've since gotten a lot of mail from this. People were like, you didn't mention that it's also for humans. You only talk to a vet, but I was talking about the people that are taking the paste, which is an alarming thing that we've seen across the country, and people are going and not consulting their doctors, because the doctors aren't going to prescribe these tablets to you if you don't have a parasitic condition. They're going to feed stores, and they're looking online on Facebook on how much paste should I eat. So the piece was breaking down that FDA, National Institute of Health, they all kind of stood behind, and even the company that makes the ivermectin paste itself was saying that people should not use this for humans. It's not for humans. It's the paste is not for humans, and even the tablets that are for humans they're not just like vitamins that you take just in case.
It's a specific condition.
You're supposed to, if you have worms, you have parasites, and that tackles that problem. It's not a catch-all for a viral condition or anything that's a virus, and it's an alarming thing. And also just the amount of people that responded and were saying, actually, I give this to my mother, she had COVID and she got better. And it's hard to
really
argue with those, because there's no correlation between, like, she could have been taking, I mean, who knows what what other courses they had going on. But
so you heard from people that have been taking this, or whose families have been taking it?
Yeah, I heard from some people that have actually run for office in this town, multiple people that ran for office in this town that let me know that their family has taken it, or they stand by it. So it's alarming to tell them.
I'm assuming they didn't win office. Is that correct?
Yeah, they did. They did not win office.
Are any of them running for office now? Hey, Nick, we let you in, but you're fully vaccinated, right? I think you're the only one we haven't.
I am completely vaccinated.
All right,
Thank
good.
you,
Then I
South
feel much
Carolina.
better. Hey, so you had this really interesting story, I thought. At the center of it is Janna Zimmer, who's a local attorney, activist, former coastal commissioner. Can you talk about what that's been all about? Because you've had the county kind of running 6 ways from Thursday, trying to keep up with you.
Yeah. So Janna actually offered up an op-ed calling the county out for not making a meeting that was set for Yom Kippur available because she, obviously is a practicing Jew, and she couldn't make it, and she runs her business by herself, so couldn't send an associate to this meeting, which had been set up. And for all intents and purposes, the meeting is a private one, although the public always can attend. And according to the county, only one person over the last 3 years had requested to ever be at one of these types of meetings. It's really about the potential business owner getting feedback on what they need to do as part of the application process.
And this is is this for a marijuana retail?
Yeah, so Santa Claus Lane, a cannabis dispensary there that, it's been in the works for about 18 months, it sounds like, in terms of the back and forth about this specific one. It seems like the local business owners don't want it. Although I do question whether or not it would bring a lot more foot traffic into the area, but they don't want it, and they are concerned over parking problems. And so Janna was voicing that, hey, I want to be at this meeting. I'm able to be.
She's completely entitled to be it, to represent her client.
100%. Everybody's invited. You and I can show up too and listen or speak. And so eventually I did send the county quite a few questions, question why they were willing to kind of quote unquote die on this hill, and why not make the shift. And so did Doss Williams. He did ask for them to switch it, but has no power to make them switch it. And ultimately, the first answers we got were, we looked at an October date, it didn't work for the parties in hand, and we're going to keep it the same. Then late Wednesday, Janna got a message from the county that they were going to move it up to a special meeting the day before Yom Kippur. So, really the way we looked at it is that this is well beyond Yom Kippur. This is about transparency. This is about making sure that access is there if people want to have the access. Sometimes, yes, it is nearly impossible to make it happen, make everybody happy. But we had to at least speak up and speak on their behalf. And Gwen actually sent a note to the county as soon as we got the answers. And I actually made a second call to make sure the answers are things that they were going to stand by. And they were initially. And Gwen then spoke up and said, this doesn't smell right, for lack of a better way of putting it.
Yeah,
and this doesn't feel right. And ultimately they made the right, they made the decision in terms of transparency that needed to be made. And now Janna will be able to be there and speak on behalf of her clients. Now she is representing 2 business owners in that area. And so she wanted to be able to be there to voice their concerns.
Well, I wanted to talk about it because of the transparency issue, the broader issue, because I mean, let's face it, without sort of a crusading daily newspaper in town, they're just, I mean, guys, they're getting away with murder. And, it's kind of like we're all out there pedaling as fast as we can, but it's not the same as it used to be in terms of a concentration of force. So I wanted to point that out, and also, kind of give you guys kudos for sticking with it and making them do the right thing. Josh, in your experience, who is less transparent, the county or the city? The city's not that bad, are they?
No, I don't really cover the county, so far be it from me to shoot off my mouth and say something that cannot be verified.
Yeah, that would be a first, wouldn't it? Yeah.
So I'm going to refrain. In my experience, most government is could take lessons on how to be more transparent. They want to do as much as they can without people knowing about it, because they sort of feel as though public engagement and involvement will slow down their process and their efforts. So that's generally true. Obviously, not everyone is the same, but I think that the more we can hold them all accountable, the better everybody is. And it's not because we're mean journalists, it's because everyday people on the street
exactly.
benefit from it.
Citizens have the right to this too. And that was, you know, when you boiled it down, because I read some of that correspondence, Nick, and that was their excuse. It's basically not convenient for us to do this because we already scheduled it some other time. But I mean, you know, you got pot, you got Yom Kippur, you got the Montecito journey. It's a great story. I mean, and kudos for sticking with it. And I, you know, I hope, you know, that kind of spirit informs all of the reporting that we do, because they will get away with whatever they can if we're not out there. So let's talk a little politics now. We had Larry Elder, who is the leading Republican candidate in the recall of Gavin Newsom. Of course, there's two questions. Do you want to recall Gavin Newsom? If people say yes, then we go to question 2, and who finishes first in this collection of this Star Wars bar scene from Star Wars group. And this guy, Larry Elder, is leading. Ryan and Jade, you were both out there. It was a pretty big crowd, I guess, huh?
There's a lot bigger turnout than I would have expected. There's some counter protesters across the street, but they were widely outnumbered by the amount of people that came to see Larry speak. And you saw the MAGA hats, you had people yelling that Newsom's a commie, and it was crazy. I mean, it was peaceful for there are no really altercations, but it was a lot.
Yeah, well, what was your takeaway?
I was definitely surprised at how many people were there, and just the level of kind of passion they had for the things they were saying up there. And this group was very passionate about what they believe, and it should send a message to people that don't want the recall to go through, that this other side is strong, and they're going to be showing up on September 14th, and they're going to be voting. It was definitely an experience to be there, and I'm pretty sure me, Josh, and Jade were one of the only ones wearing masks. We stood out.
Is that right?
Yeah,
They're right up front, all masked up, and no one else.
Yeah, so definitely get some looks, and I got a couple comments of, I'm an idiot for wearing a mask, and I'm following orders and stuff like that. But
Sheep. They probably
yeah,
didn't even take ivermectin. Josh, hey, what do we know about the ballots that have come in so far? The conventional wisdom a couple of weeks ago was that all the energy was on the Republican side on this, on the yes recall side, but that seems to be changing. What do we know about it, the ballots in the county?
Well, Jared, just a couple things first on Larry Elder. The crowd was pretty strong for a conservative turnout, and I think that was what was surprising. I think we're used to seeing liberal progressives in Santa Barbara show up in strong numbers for a variety of marches. This was a large turnout for the Republican Party, and I don't think we've seen that before. So it was notable in that sense. Elder spoke. If you follow Elder, if you're following the governor's race, you kind of know his talking points, the same thing he's been saying. I was more struck by the crowd. The crowd to me was far more to the right than Elder. The crowd was a Trump crowd.
Did you have any sense of how much of it was local and how much of it was, kind of from somewhere else?
I felt it was a lot local. I mean, I saw a lot of local faces. I don't know if people were coming in from other areas, but I did see a lot of people that I recognized. And so I just think that the crowd to me struck me more than Elder. Elder's a politician. Other politicians have said what he says. He's got a lot of points on a variety of things. But I don't know how Ryan and Jade felt, but I mean, I was told to move. I was told to get out of the way. I don't know what in people's heads, but I definitely felt like I was kind of singled out a little bit by some people in that crowd just for trying to do my job. And I don't always, feel that way when I'm doing my thing. So it is what it is, but I would say that it was a strong turnout. Now, to your question, Santa Barbara County has received about 74,000 ballots, and it looks like 39,000 of those have been Democrats, and 19,000 of those have been Republicans, and everything else is, you know, no party preference or whatever, you know, the other parties, American Independent,
Right.
et cetera. So Democrats are leading in terms of returning the ballots. Now, well, we have a little bit of a switch here because traditionally, you know, the stereotype is that conservative voters vote by mail, they vote early, they know who they're going to vote for, nothing's going to change it, and they send it in. But now, because there's this distrust around voting and whether it's rigged or whether they can be trusted, largely because of the presidential election, a lot of conservatives are waiting until the end to vote, and they're going to do it, you know, in person, physically, and they're going to walk it in. And so it's a little bit of a twist. You know, Jade noted the opponents at the Elder rally. You know, the Democrats have been really working hard to get people to vote no on the recall. I was surprised there was not a larger protest at the courthouse. I don't know. I mean, there was a presence there, but it could have been much larger. So I don't know if they just decided.
Yeah, I
not
think
to
they
go
got
that
kind of a late start on it just based on emails that I was seeing. Of course, Mike Stoker, our old friend, the Trump administration executive, and a longtime Republican provocateur in Santa Barbara County, organized the thing. So he's got.
He got mad at me. He sent me a letter, you know, to me,
Shock.
because during the speech, he said that this was the largest crowd he's ever seen
Yeah.
for a political event at the courthouse. And I noted, or Jade and I noticed, we shared a byline on the story, worked together on it. You know, part of my contribution was you know, off the top of my head, the Black Lives Matter rally a year ago at the courthouse was
Or the
far
Women's
bigger.
March also.
You couldn't see any grass at all. You know, the crowd was just covered. So we just kind of noted that, not that we need to fact check every one of those points, but it was kind of obvious that, you know,
What did Stoker
you know, he
say?
said, well, I was talking about a political person, a candidate. I think it's splitting hairs. I've seen larger crowds there before. I've seen larger crowds for Easter services, you know, Calvary Chapel does. I mean, I think it's a lot of people have large events there. And while this crowd was big, it was by no means the biggest thing of
Yeah,
any
that
event.
definitely seemed like one of those Donald Trump, my inauguration is the biggest in the history type of statements when I heard it.
Yeah, Mike,
Yeah.
you know, Mike's a good guy and he does a great Jack Nicholson impersonation, but he's gone pretty far, Trump. All right, let's talk about local politics a little bit. Hey, Nick, you guys are having Montecito Journal's having a mayoral debate. Is
Yes,
that correct?
sir.
When is that?
So we're going to do that September 29th. And then we're actually going to host both District 4 and District 6 city council candidates on the 30th. The one on the 29th is going to be starting at 7 o'clock, go for 90 minutes. Looks like we're going to land right around 9 questions apiece and starting to do some introductory interviews now with the candidates. And
Are you going to endorse?
Right now, we're undecided on that, whether or not we're going to go that direction. And I know we'll be making that decision by the end of the month. But obviously, we feel like the debate is a chance to see people, just like you and Josh did. It's a chance to see people in action, put them on their toes and see what they can handle, what types of questions they can handle, and where they sit. I do think it's a very unique election with the 6 folks there, that they all have definitely something unique to bring, and they're all honestly chasing Kathy. And Kathy really just does. She has to stay status quo, and I think that she's looking fairly pretty. And but you know, it'll be interesting whether or not these candidates take chances over the next 30 days.
Are you doing? Because I remember during the supervisors race between Laura Capps and Doss.
Yeah.
It was at Han Hall. It was a great event. There were like 300. Are you doing it live or is it on Zoom or?
It's going to be Zoom. We just felt with the Delta, it was just too unpredictable whether or not we'd be able to do that. Believe me, we wanted
I know.
badly to do it in person, but just felt like this was the safest thing for everybody, including ourselves, and honestly allows us to extend it a little bit more and maybe keep it more on the issues versus the loudness in the room.
Yeah. All right. Well, Jade, you know, Josh and I were going to do Barrett Reed and Kristen Snedden face to face in the studio, but then you piped up last week and said, "Oh, you know, you have to wear a mask, you moron," or some words.
I said you could do it if you wanted, but technically.
So we
Just
didn't.
film it outside.
We didn't do that, but be that as it may, I think Nick correctly points out that, Kathy's still the front runner. You got to beat the champ. And you had a piece this week that all of a sudden we have the mayor's state of the city thing in the middle of the campaign, which I don't remember happening before. Maybe it has. What was let me guess what that, to talk about what the tone of that was.
Yeah, so it was first she declined to do the South Coast Chamber of Commerce State of the City,
Which historically has been the sponsor, right?
Right, yeah, and that's like, the big event. They do it for all the cities. And that was back in June. And at that time, and Josh reported that she, declined because oil and gas companies were the sponsor of the event. And she didn't agree with that, didn't see like it fit the city's, mission or vision. And she had originally said that they were planning their own for July. That didn't happen. So it premiered on Wednesday night, which is, just less than a month before the election. So I think there was some sort of strategic planning there. It's hard to think that wasn't, at least a thought in their mind, but it was very, positive, like, look how well we've done with the city. These are all the new projects we're working on. These are the ones that we continue to work on. But Paul Casey, it was his last State of the City address before he
The outgoing city administrator. Yeah.
So he said that the city lost like 35 million in revenue over I think is the past year, which I think is a significant number. And I felt like that was, Paul spoke for like maybe 7 minutes at the end. It lasted half an hour. So I feel like that was kind of like shaded under all the, look what we've done, great.
Yeah. Josh, did you force yourself to watch it?
No, this is a lot of choices on television, and unless I'm getting paid to do it, watching a Zoom of really any mayor in America
But
talking.
seriously, I mean,
Doesn't sound great.
this has never been a campaign event, has it? I mean, it's always been kind of a,
Usually in the spring, it's like March.
Yeah.
They do, before COVID, they do a big tables, sponsor speeches. Obviously went to Zoom during COVID, but it just kind of came out of nowhere. Jade reminded me when I talked to Kathy way back whenever I did the story about how she pulled the city from the chamber event because of the energy sponsors. She said, we're going to do a great event. We're going to do it outdoors. We're going to do it in July. We're going to have bilingual translation. We're going to have crafts for the kids. We're going to have appetizer. We're going to have food and drink. It's going to be so much fun. It's going to be a community event. And I guess the Delta or whatever prevented that from happening.
Oh, man.
I couldn't tell if it was actually recorded in July because in part of it, she said, as our state starts to open back up. And so timing wise, that makes sense if it was recorded in July. I don't know when it was recorded, but then again, it seems
That'd be worth pursuing. That would be really interesting if they pre-recorded it and then saved it for the campaign. Oh, man.
Question is whether Anthony Wagner recorded it. Too soon.
All right, now here's a question. You have to be honest. Now, how many of you actually watched the District 4 debate that Josh and I sponsored the other night? Did anybody watch it? Josh, you had to watch it?
I don't think Josh did.
No,
Josh doesn't rewatch his shows.
I'm half of your views, Jerry. Come on.
Wait a minute. What about my views? You were the one that had to have the big, you had to have your logo splashed up there in yellow and come on.
I learned a long time ago, Jerry, I got to look out for me because no one else is. So yes, my logo's there.
You're a bitter man. All right. Well, anyway, it was a good event because there was only two of them. And I'm wondering, Nick, when you say you're going to have all of the candidates all at once, or are you going to divide them into the
We're
group?
dividing them up. So
Yeah,
District 4 will be another mano-a-mano situation. And believe me, my first story I did about once it was official that they were running against each other. Barrett didn't hold back then either. I don't anticipate he'll ever stop holding back. I just don't believe it's in his personality to not say what's on his mind. And I think Kristen's very calculated, as we've seen. And so it's going to be, believe me, I'm looking forward to that one quite a bit. only because I think they both are very passionate about what they're passionate about. And
Oh, yeah. And
Now,
we,
now, Nick, could you elaborate on your assessment of Kristen being calculated? Sorry.
no,
not
calculated,
my-
I think actually in a positive way. She's a college professor, and it comes across to me as a former college professor, she thinks a lot. No,
Jerry,
Josh's teaching style is a little different, I think.
See, Jerry took that away, Josh. I was giving you a compliment.
Gary,
I
all I know is I don't, teach about, the Giants or the Dodgers.
all right. We save that for the. So Jade, you didn't watch it. That's too bad, because I need to ask you if you felt that, because Barrett was very aggressive from the start. I mean, and he was, Kristen did this and Kristen, you did that and stuff. And, he was making the case against her, and you have to do that. But it is tricky, I think, when you're a male candidate running against a woman, to not, come across like a bully or something like that. So I think that's something to watch for in the debates going forward, and there are going to be a bunch of them. What district do you live in, Jade?
I'm on the east side, so one.
Yeah.
So you don't have an election issue. How about you, Ryan? Where you live on the Mesa?
I live on Mission Street, Lavina.
So what district would that be? That would,
That's 93101. I'm pretty sure that's Megan Harmon.
okay. All right. Okay. Well, anyway, it was Josh, what was your takeaway on the Kristen Barrett thing? Who do you
Well,
think?
first thing is
Yeah.
everyone in this room, not named Josh and Jerry, need to go watch it. That's number
Yeah.
one.
Oh, I watched
And
it.
everyone.
Oh, you
at
did
home,
watch it.
I did.
Watch everything
Nick
Josh
watched
it.
does.
Well, who do you?
I was
Just-
planning
You're
on
gonna
it.
get to it over the weekend. It's weekend watching, right, Ryan? Right? Friday night watching. So anyway,
Forget
was great.
Netflix, forget HBO Max. Josh and Jerry are on.
I was gonna watch the football game last night, but I hopped on Josh's.
So what did you think, Nick? Who
you
did
don't
you
need to
think?
watch Tom Brady. Come on, Ryan.
Nick, what'd you think?
We got
Nick,
I actually agree with your assessment. It's interesting in a day and age where male versus female. So this city specifically, if this was back east or in the South, maybe that aggressive nature really, really works. I've never seen it work in Santa Barbara. And that's where I'm not saying it's the right or wrong way to go. He obviously feels very passionate, and I always believe that people should speak whatever on their mind. But in this case, is that a winning strategy? I don't know. It's going to be very interesting to see if it works, because he's been this way since the get-go. But he's doing the work too. He is going door to door. I know that. And as is Kristen. And so I don't feel like this is just talk. It's something that he is trying to get out there, and really he's focused on making sure that he drives votes towards him in terms of convincing people change needs to be had. And looking at Coast Village, I think that there are people on both sides. I see it every single day, and it is hopping pretty much every single day. But is it hopping in the right way? And I think that's where Barrett's coming from. And I think Kristen goes, well, we made that happen. And during a pandemic, they had one of the best couple of years ever. And why should we change it? So I think it's going to be an interesting, especially with the amount of money that could potentially be behind whoever wins this. The things I think they both bring very solid points to the table. And so I'm wondering if yelling the way he's yelling is going to work.
what did you think, Josh? Did you think he went over the line?
I think Barrett won. I think Barrett made a greater case for why people should vote for him. He was specific. He challenged her. He said her name multiple times. If we're looking at this as though it were some like on a bigger stage, a national debate, he definitely did what he had to do to get people's attention. I think Kristen needs to learn from it. And if he pulls that stuff again, Kristen needs to come back at him. I think Kristen needs to point out, Kristen needs to just say, Barrett, okay, you have all this deep analysis of every one of my votes. You are a developer, okay? How do we know you're just not looking to get on the council so that you can pay back the people who've donated to you and you can push that, projects in your developer agenda? she just needs to throw that back at him, because if she doesn't, it's just going to be a continual.
Yeah, she was on
Poking.
she was on defense all night, and I thought she did okay. When I went back and watched it again, I thought she did okay playing defense, but she hadn't. I don't think she really had prepared a strategy for what she was going to do if he was going to do that. All right, we got to go. Josh has got to pick up kids. Ryan Cruz, Jade Martinez-Pogue, Nick Masuda, and Josh Molina, thank you so much for taking the time on a busy Friday to drop by Newsmakers, and we will see you again at this time next week. Thanks for watching.
Thanks, everybody.